Best way to explain it is I tried to come up with a very simple analogy to explain to my clients who are not necessarily versed in, sophisticated financial terms, for lack of a better way of saying it, a way to explain to them what I thought was going to happen as we enter a global currency and sovereign debt crisis. So the dollar milkshake theory is the framework via which I see a sovereign debt crisis playing out. Now, I thought we would already be in a sovereign debt crisis. The powers that be have been able to successfully kick that can down the road longer than I thought they would be able to. But I do feel like we are coming up on it again. And I still think the theory has validity. And what the theory says is that over the last, let's just use the last 15 years since the global financial crisis. The reality is we could probably go back 20, 30, 40, 50 years. But if we just focus on the last 15 years, I think most people involved in the markets today are very familiar with the extraordinary monetary policies and measures and influence of central banks and governments have had on the markets over the last 15 years. They've provided an incredible amount of liquidity stimulus, again, however you want to define that, QE1, QE2, Operation Twist, et cetera, not just in the United States, but the Bank of Japan did it, ECB did it, Bank of England did it, China did it, Australia did it, everybody did it, right? So the way I describe it is the world mixed this milkshake of liquidity. And they did that to paper over all the bad debts that were out there. But for a number of reasons, a lot of them having to do with the fact that the United States and the US dollar has the global reserve currency status, that the US dollar and the US markets are the ones that have the straw. And so it doesn't really matter who mixes the milkshake. What matters is who has the straw and is able to drink it. And so I think that the US and the US dollar are going to drink this milkshake that the rest of the world has produced and is continuing to produce. I got this name from a movie called There Will Be Blood, where there was this oil baron who was negotiating a piece of land next to him. And the other guy really wanted this guy to buy the land from him. And finally, he just said, I don't have to buy your land. All I have to do is stick a straw down into the ground and I can drink your oil. He said, I'll drink your milkshake. And I think that's a pretty good analogy for what I think is going to happen as we enter a sovereign debt crisis. I think for a number of reasons, perhaps they're deserved, perhaps they're not deserved, but I just think it's a reality that the US is in better shape on a relative basis than the rest of the world. I think the US has advantages that the rest of the world does not. And as a result, I think global capital will find its way into the dollar and into the US markets. And so on a relative basis, that will allow us to be the last domino standing, so to speak.
If you enjoyed this video clip, click here to watch another one you should like.